Now, the Tory backbencher Sir David Davies pushing for an emergency debate over the Horizon Post Office scandal in the Commons. He joins us in the studio now. David, morning to you. Do I call you Sir David? Would you like to be called Sir David?
I think we're not on a parade ground, so David's okay.
There should be a debate, but can we just get to the nub? A lot of people are saying, why were so many successfully prosecuted when there was such a glut suddenly, 700 odd, all doing the same offence, taking money, the figures not adding up, they all have the same defence, it's the system, not us. They were being prosecuted on the basis of a simple lie, which was that they were the only ones who could access the Horizon IT system, and that wasn't true.
That's correct. And in fact, it may be the key to the solution as well, because if that statement is not true, and we now know it wasn't true, then you can't reasonably or safely prosecute anybody. If you and I share a computer, you can't say one of us is responsible for fixing the numbers or stealing.
So just to be clear to people who understand, they haven't seen the documentary, so this is the fact that Fujitsu allowed those who are managing this Horizon system, one of those complicated tech systems that are in offices, the postmasters thought they were the only ones that could put the figures in, but it could be remotely accessed. Unbeknownst to them, some guy in the office, in the UK, not in Japan, in the UK, could also log in without them knowing. It's like someone being able to go into your emails or your Facebook page and change things without you
What the docudrama showed, which I didn't know, and I've been involved with this for years, was this sort of little Fort Knox, sort of all high-security section with a number of programmers doing nothing but accessing these computers in order, to be fair to them, to try to make sure they work properly, because, of course, like all software systems, and particularly government ones, it would appear, there are lots of glitches, lots of bugs, and so they had to fix all the bugs. And so they were acting, we talk about 700 or 900, depending on how you define it, who have been convicted, but there are thousands more as well, who I think paid money back that they shouldn't really have owed. So all of that, the point being, however, because they're doing that, you can't reasonably bring a prosecution against somebody when they don't control their own computer. And so on to the flip side of that is, if let's imagine now we want to exonerate 700 or 800,
which we do,
and we want to do it fast, then why on earth can't we just turn around and say, look, let's just check every single one of those and see whether their computer was accessed? There must be records of this.
And who would have accessed it, David? That's what I...
It would have been Fujitsu. It would have been Fujitsu.
Who've apologised, and they say they're cooperating with this inquiry, which, like all inquiries in Britain, is going on forever, starting 2021, no sign when it's going to end. They haven't paid a penny yet in compensation.
No, they haven't.
And yet the taxpayers paid 140 odd million.
And what we don't know at the moment, I mean, what we do know, or at least what the docudrama tells us, is that Fujitsu weren't exactly straightforward in dealing with the courts, right? And the key to one element I care about, which is prosecuting the people, criminally prosecuting the people who actually decided to tell the lie. That's the key point. Who decided to tell this lie? Because that person is guilty of perverting the course of justice. Absolutely. Very serious charge.
And that could be in the post office or Fujitsu.
It could be in either or both. It's likely to be quite a lot of people. I mean, I as you know, I do quite a lot of miscarriage of justice things, and we've got the Chinook thing coming up later another TV programme coming up in a month's time. And what you invariably find is, inside these big organisations, for different reasons, people either initiate bad actions or they go along with it, and sometimes it's to protect the reputation of the organisation, sometimes it's to protect their bonuses, sometimes it's just because the guy before did it and they haven't got the guts to put it right, and so on. But I'm afraid they're all guilty if they go along with somebody being put in prison.
And didn't Nigel Farage have a good point when he made the point? He was challenged with this, that the Director of Public Prosecution at the time, we're not trying to be party-pre here, but the whole DPP, a huge department paid for by the taxpayer, turned a blind eye with these prosecutions going on, and they could have intervened under... There's a clause in the whatever Act of Parliament it is. Farage has checked that out. He made that point last night. He has a point, doesn't he? Why weren't the public prosecutors thinking, how are so many of these postmasters being prosecuted?
He has a point. But forgive me, I'm being very careful in trying not to politicise this. Because what I want is an answer. I want resolution, right? And at the moment, we've got everybody in the Commons on our side, whichever party they're in. Now, there's no doubt in my mind some people made some pretty big mistakes. I mean, we've had Ed Davies episode, and plainly he didn't do his job.
He didn't challenge the post office or his civil servants.
What a minister is for. A minister is there to challenge.
And he says, everybody lied to me. Well, your judgment should be better.
It should.
You should be able to smell that amount of untruth.
And there are ways of testing things, you know. When I've been a minister, I've always told my people, I'm going to disagree with you, and you're going to need to prove things. Always. That's been my standard opening line when I go into a department. So lots of people have made mistakes, frankly, and we'll come back to this, I think. But my first issue at the moment
is to get
them exonerated. Get the money to them. This is again, you see, the post office here. This is an important point. The post office talk about solving this, and then they employ incredibly expensive lawyers.
Who pays for that? The taxpayer, David, because it's a taxpayer-funded organisation.
It's our money. So I want that stopped. I want
what about the post workers who've had compensation, David, but lost most of it because they had to employ expensive lawyers to take on the fat cat lawyers hired by the post office?
They've
got to get it back.
The state, the post office has to pay for all, or Fujitsu has to pay for all of that. I think you see. Let me just tell you a tiny example. With the case that I first looked at on this, she was imprisoned. She had to pay back the money they asserted she owned. She sold her house. She had to sell her house in order to do that, right? But because she sold her house before the mortgage she had to pay a huge penalty on the mortgage. Oh, no. So she ended up with no money to pay.
If there's a massive...
Those sorts of things build up. So it's why the minimum you get back, just as a down payment, is what you gave to the post office. And then on top of that, there's a huge set of other numbers, and including, as you say, the lawyers as well.
Oh, the loss of earnings, the damage that's been caused to these people's reputations. Do you know what keeps me awake at night, David? Is the idea that if this docudrama hadn't been made, what would have happened?
It would have taken us more years.
Yeah, because the public inquiry would go on forever.
Would there have been enough people with enough fire in their bellies to help these people?
Well, it was very interesting piece. You wouldn't normally hear me say this, but there was an interesting piece in The Guardian.
No,
not my normal line. Before Christmas, Martin Kettley was, and he was criticising MPs for not doing their job and not being there. And it was interesting because the issue he was pointing at, the very last day of term, there's a bill going through the House. It's a small technical bill, but Kevin Jones, my sort of my Labour mucker,
brilliant on this,
who has been the leader on it.
He was here yesterday.
I'm number 2, not number 1 in this exercise in the House. Kevin had put in an amendment. I'd signed the amendments to basically give a bit more leverage to Kevin Hollinrake, the minister, who's also been good, to give him some power with his own department, to push his department to do what he wanted. Well, Kevin was there. I was in and out doing other things, but I was there, and I think there were about 5 or 6 other people, and that was it. Now, that was the level of interest just before Christmas. Last night, we had to drop the business going through the House because there were so many people wanting to ask questions.
And that was the big bill about drilling in the North Sea.
All about the North Sea. That went out the window because the House was so seized of this. And the issue here is imagination. You see, what the docudrama did was showed you the depth of the misery that's visited on people by this injustice. Money, house, reputation, job, everything. And that's what it did. And it's very difficult. Miscarriages of justice, the guy you're representing, or people, or many people, are always unpopular at the beginning because people think they're guilty. And it takes that transition.
We have to leave it then. A lack of imagination is at the root of so many issues. We are going to read your statement from Fujitsu after this quick break.